everyone. Welcome back to the railroad, the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO Scale. My name is Daryl Cruz, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for a special 3-year review. It's hard to believe that just 3 years ago, work on this layout begun. Actually, it was a little bit more than 3 years ago, about 3 years, a month, and a few weeks. So a lot's been done. I just kind of want to review where we started and where things are now and kind of give you a overview of the layout as it stands in October 2024. Make sure you subscribe and like this channel. Much appreciated. All right, so here we are in June of 2021. We had not even moved into the house. It was still under construction, and this is one of my first times into the basement. This will give you an idea of what I started with, and I was just thrilled to be able to have 2,200 square feet, even though it wasn't exactly square or rectangular. I guess it was rectangular, but a lot of different lines. Wasn't exactly 4 straight sides, but it was a lot of room, and this is what I started with, and having so much room made me decide to move to HO scale. Now, one of the very first things I did, now I'm actually moved in, and I worked for about 5 months on this track plan while we were waiting for the house to be constructed. And I put that up. That was still in the first part of August. And then here, I guess you would call this the first day of construction when I put pieces of particle board there together for this staging yard. That was August 19th of 2021. So I guess you could say that's the very first day of work on the layout, although I did a lot of planning before that while I was waiting for the house to be done. And then here in October, as you can see, the work has been done on the staging yard. And this is one of the first trains that I ran. This is as far as I could go. That's just from one end, actually not even one end, like the middle of the staging yard to the other end of the staging yard, although it wasn't even the end. I didn't even have any turnouts done, just some track put down. Now you notice the sound is a little bit higher. I hadn't quite yet figured out to turn the sound down, so the volume is up pretty high here. This is a couple of scale trains, Tier 4 GEVOs. So you can see I do have some of the tracks done, but none of the turnouts put in just yet. Now that was a loss of power. Here you can see what the basement looked like, and you can see I had some construction done, some finish work with the walls, and then the staging yard, some bench work done down there towards Morgan. And here I am at the other end and getting things going again. So not a whole lot of track to run on, but I have to admit that when I was doing this, I was really thrilled because this was my first venture into HO scale. So it gave me my first taste of running HO scale trains. And I was, I don't know how many times I ran this back and forth. You see a little bit of issues with connections. Man, I have the volume really high on this. But again, this is my first foray into HO scale, having done N scale for 50 years. Now, I could go and show you all the construction videos. If you want to see all the different steps, they're all posted on my YouTube channel. It would take you quite a while to see all the updates. It's basically probably, 40 updates a year over 3 years, so it's over 100 updates. But if you want to pick and choose ones, you can kind of see the progression. All right, now we're back to present day. This is what it looks like when you walk in now. Things definitely look a lot different. It's amazing to me how much progress I've been able to make in just 3 years. Could be the record for the most layouts built by one person in a 3-year period. Now, I did have some help from some good friends on some scenery, but for the most part, this was a solo effort. Building all this, you can kind of see how the whole room looks. This is the area that I've just been working on. Thought this would be a good time to do a 3-year review, having finished that section and ready to move on to the next section, which you can see here. We'll get back to that in just a little bit. Just wanted to kind of show you, first of all, how the room looks. One thing you might notice that there are very wide aisles for this layout. Resisted the urge to just add as much track and layout as possible. I wanted it to be a very comfortable space where you could always walk past each other without turning sideways. So this is about, it comes down to about 5 feet right here, which is plenty of room to walk by. There is room for the crew lounge there for people to sit while they're waiting for their next train. Here's my old N-scale layout. Now here it does come down. This is the narrowest part. It's down to about 30 inches here. But it's a very short distance, and then it's back to the wide aisles. This is the Evanston yard area. And again, a lot of room, very comfortable. This is a unique railroad, especially a unique HO scale railroad, because it's not totally emphasizing switching. Here's the helix. You can see this is looking in the mirror. This is how you can watch your trains come up the helix, and then it comes through that little passageway there. And then this is the another way to look at the staging yard. I'm taking my hand and holding the phone over the backdrop there, so you can see the staging yard and helix. So this is basically the entire layout. This is what it looks like if you get a chance to visit, run trains and so forth. This is a cool crossing that's on the layout. I'm going to add 2 more. Definitely looking forward to adding those. One other thing that's an important part of the railroad is the computer aspect of it. I do have CTC control, so here you can see a copy of the control panel for the dispatcher. Now the dispatcher actually sits in the helix, so this is a remote desktop of his computer, so he actually looks at that while he's in the helix. And then I also use this computer for programming all my locomotives, getting everything speed matched and everything using JMRI, Decoder Pro. And then I also use JMRI for the throttle engine driver. Now here you can see the like a control panel, and you can see the throttle server. If you look closely, you can see the 4 addresses for that one throttle there, and that corresponds to my phone, which is those four, the four locomotives or four trains running, and you can control their speed and all the functions. And then I also have access to the control panel, so I can throw turnouts. So I have a lot of fun running trains all by myself, and try to take a break every once in a while and enjoy the running of trains. And now I just kind of want to show you some of the different spots along the railroad where you have some pretty cool scenes representing the Evanston sub from Green River to Ogden through Wyoming, and then the beautiful Echo Canyon and Weber River Canyon in Utah. This is the Aspen Tunnels, which is just east of Evanston. Now we're on the other end of the room, and this is again in Wyoming, but this is further from Evanston. This is the actually most eastern part of the main line. The upper level is about 10 inches wide for the most part, although there are a couple areas where it gets a little wider. You saw the Aspen Tunnels, which get wider for the tunnel. And then there's the West Vaco Trona Mine and plant, and the Granger interchange with Pocatello sub. Now again, this is a very unique HO scale layout. There's not a lot, so much overemphasis on switching, although there is switching on the layout. We do have a yard that has some pretty extensive switching, 7-track yard in Evanston, as we actually are going eastward out of Evanston right now. But it's unique in that in addition to the switching that we have at various places, there's an emphasis, if not a more of an emphasis, on running trains, long trains, with DPUs and everything across a modern main line, a modern double-track main line with a dispatcher and everything. It just is a lot of fun. And the dispatcher has to route trains around different trains that have stopped for different reasons. You might have maintenance or way activities going on. We have an excursion train that has to have PR stops. And then, of course, you will have trains that need to stop along the main line to swap out cars at different industrial locations. And while that happens, there is a lot of maneuvering that the dispatcher needs to do to move trains around all that different kinds of activity, in addition to getting trains in and out of the yard. So it definitely makes for some really fun op sessions, and actually it's a lot of fun when I just run trains myself. As we are continuing to see the Evanston yard, again, it has 7 tracks, and there are 2 trains that originate at the yard each day, and 2 local trains that terminate at the yard, as well as a couple of trains that stop at the yard and swap out cars and then continue either eastbound or westbound. And as you can see in the Evanston yard, there's also engine facilities, so there are some engine hostlings to do as well. So not only does the Evanston yard generate some switching activity, but it also makes moving trains east and west on the main line more interesting, as we have to maneuver trains onto the right track, the correct track, to get in and out of the yard. All right, now I've gotten a lot of the layout done as far as basic scenery goes. This is the last sections that I need to work on. You saw the Wholesome yard on the lower level and the Granger on the upper level. Then we have Echo Canyon here on the lower level. That's going to be a pretty major scenery spot. And then more of western Wyoming on the upper level, and you have the West Vaco mine with a little yard there, a lot of switching activities there, as well as mainline trains stopping to swap out cars to generate switching opportunities. And then on lower level, you have Emory, which is where the two main lines separate into the original main line that the original main line that is the steeper main line and more curvy main line that you see on the left here, and then the modern main line, which the train is on right now, which has fewer curves and a more modest incline or grade. And then here you have a very interesting point where the two main lines cross over at a place called Curvo, and also by the railroad it's called the Flyover. And then here's where the two main lines are running at different elevations, and there are definitely spots. This is all try to be modeled as after the prototype as much as possible. You do have spots where you have the two main lines running together but at different elevations. This is the one complete turnback that the main line makes, but this peninsula is about almost 10 feet wide, and so the radius of the curves are not very sharp, and the trains look pretty good. Even auto rack trains look good going across these curves. The upper level is a little bit sharper. The sharpest curve is inside the tunnel, so there's a curve, I think it goes down to like 34 inches. That's the sharpest curve on the main line, but it's hidden by being inside a tunnel. So the visible curves still look very good, very broad. All the curves on layout are very broad, especially by HO standards. And here we're coming up the Wasatch grade to the Wasatch summit. As we knock down the green signal to red. Now again, I've done a lot of work on just completing it to the basic scenery stage. All of this entire layout, once I get that last section done, the entire layout's gonna get an update all the way around with details, things like guardrails for bridges, roads and buildings, not to mention weathering all the equipment. So I've been working on this for 3 years. When I started this, I figured it would take me about 5 years. My goal was to have it fairly completed by my 70th birthday. I started this when I was 65, and I'm going to be turning 68 here in a couple weeks. So in order for me to get this done by my 70th birthday, I have 2 more years to work on this. I think I should be able to get everything weathered and detailed and so on. And I'm hoping that then I can spend my 70s and 80s just running trains. I'm sure I'll still be working on the layout, making improvements. Want to do night riding at some point. So that'll take a lot of work. So still be things to do. But this is the way the layout looks after 3 years being built by one person, yours truly. I think I'm going to do another video that will be more of a east to west run featuring an excursion train, so you can see what it's like to make the entire run across the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.